This is an exclusive presentation of WOWO 1190 AM and 107.5 FM, Unholstered.
It is time. Welcome back here to another edition of Unholstered. My name is Kayla Blakesley, and during the week I host a radio program here in northern Indiana, and on the weekends I host Unholstered alongside my co-host Sophia.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sophia Rosales-Scatina. I am a captain with the Fort Wayne Police Department, and welcome back to the show.
If this is your first time tuning in, we've been doing Unholstered for a little over a year now. I can't believe it. But this show is all about the stories that don't often get told or talked about when it comes to law enforcement. Not only here in northern Indiana, but across the region, across the country. We talk about all of it. We always say no topic is off the table. And Sophia, that's kind of where we're at today. I'm going to be honest with you. We left last weekend's episode talking about the fact that we were going to kind of get into speeding around the region and whether people are pulled over or not pulled over and how all that works. And I do want to get to that. But as I just said, no topic is left off the table. And this one popped up this week. I'm sure you're well aware, for those who follow politics to some degree, even if you don't, you probably heard this. Paul Pelosi, the husband of Nancy Pelosi, our former House Speaker, he was attacked in their home in San Francisco by a man with a hammer. And the 911 call that Paul Pelosi placed when this person, David DePappy, broke into his home, the attacker, has been released. The audio of that 911 call. And so, like I said, I know we were supposed to talk about speeding today. And maybe we'll get to it. Maybe we won't. I don't know. I don't know how long this conversation is going to go.
I came prepared for speeding, just so everyone knows.
Yeah, exactly.
I was not prepared for this topic.
I know. I'm totally catching Sophia off guard here. But it's newsworthy. It's timely. And I listened to this 911 call, and it's just shy of 3 minutes long. And I actually played it on my show that I host during the week, earlier this week. And I played this phone call to dispatch, and hey, first of all, I still had a lot more questions than I did answers. But second of all, I had a lot of questions just in terms about dispatch and how these calls should or shouldn't be conducted, what dispatch knows or doesn't know. Yeah. So I'm hoping, have you heard this 911 call yet?
I have not heard it.
You've not heard it, so I'm really putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm hoping what I want to do is play this phone call for you and then maybe peg you with all my questions about dispatch.
All right.
Are you in for this? All right, here we go.
Please, 74.
2022. Oh, I guess I called by mistake. What is this?
18 seconds. This is San Francisco Police. Do you need help?
Oh, well, there's a gentleman here just waiting for my wife to come back. Nancy Pelosi.
2:23
He's just waiting for her to come back, but she's not going to be here for a day, so I guess we'll have to wait.
Okay, do you need police, fire, or medical for anything?
8 seconds. I don't think so. I don't think so.
2:23 and 58 seconds.
There's is the Capitol Police around?
2:20. No, this is San
Francisco. They usually protect my wife. They're usually here at the house protecting my wife.
No, this is San Francisco Police.
Friday, October. I understand.
8, 2022.
Okay, well.
0:24 and 18 seconds.
Good. He thinks everything's good. I've got a problem, but he thinks everything's good.
Okay. Call us back if you change your mind.
No. This gentleman just came into the house. And he wants to wait here for my wife to come home.
0:24
and so,
and 48.
Anyway, he told me to put the phone down.
Do you know who the person is?
No, I don't know who he is. He has this. He's telling me not to. He's telling me not to do anything.
What's your address, sir? 2:25 and 0. What is your name? Seconds.
My name is Paul Pelosi.
Friday.
Anyway, this gentleman says that he thinks everything ought to, he told me to put the phone down and just do what he says.
18 seconds.
Okay?
Okay, what's the gentleman's name?
I don't know. What's that? My name's David. The name's David.
Okay, and who is David?
I don't know. What's that? I'm a friend of theirs. Yeah, he says he's a friend, but As I said, I've never.
But you don't know who he is?
25
No, ma'am.
48 seconds.
Okay.
He's telling me I'm being very leading, so I got to stop talking to you, okay?
25 and
Okay.
50
You sure I can stay on the
seconds.
phone with you just to make sure everything's okay?
No, he wants me to get that off the phone.
0 to 26
Okay.
Okay.
and 08
Thank you.
seconds.
Okay, bye.
Okay, so that's the 911 phone call. Obviously, I'm not here to talk about politics or necessarily even so much this story, but a little bit of context, because I know if you haven't heard this, people are probably wondering kind of a little bit of context into this. Again, David DePappy is the name of the attacker that broke into the Pelosi home in San Francisco, California, around 2 a.m. It was or I guess technically early Saturday morning, a Friday night, early Saturday morning. Broke in. Paul Pelosi was sleeping in his bed, allegedly, and the attacker had a hammer. And this dispatcher did, after this phone call, send 2 police officers on a, quote, wellness check to Paul Pelosi's home. When police answered the door, they kind of said, hey, how's it going? It's very strange. We don't even need to get into that part either. But that is when the attacker then did hit Paul Pelosi with this hammer. So that's a little bit of context. If you want to look into it, look into it. What I want to focus, though, on, Sophia, today is this actual dispatch phone call conversation. I have so many questions. But before I get to them, what's your initial reaction?
I was actually taken aback by just tone.
How casual it was?
It was very casual,
Yeah.
and he appeared very disoriented.
Yeah.
Confused, asking for Capitol Police. Did he even know he was in San Francisco? I mean, he just seemed, I shouldn't have called, and so when she's going to hang out with him, then he kind of got her back on the phone. So I'm not really sure kind of what's going on there.
Again, that's why
Very
allegedly
strange.
it was like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Allegedly he had been sleeping, awoken by this attacker. Also allegedly his cell phone was in the bathroom. And I don't know how or when he ended up in the bathroom to place this phone call. Clearly you can hear what sounds like, I'm assuming, a knock on the door. And this David fella, the attacker, is now standing beside him. You hear him say, oh, my name's David. Like, oh, hey, what's up, buddy? Good to see you.
Like they were friends.
Right,
they were friends or
is that
acquaintances, and
casual?
he's letting him call the police on him. It was just very strange.
It's very strange. And this is where I want to start.
Okay.
Yes, I want to talk about the actual dispatcher, but first I do want to talk about Paul Pelosi. In this scenario, you have a home invasion. In this case, that's what this is. You have someone that, according to Paul, you don't know who this person is, break into your home. They have a hammer. They say they are waiting for your wife to come home. And in this scenario, Paul told this man, it's going to be a while before she gets here.
Yeah.
And I realize in those moments, you probably really can't even think. It's fight or flight. You're freaking out. Is there a way that you should try at least to communicate with dispatch in that moment? What I do think here, and this is what my gut tells me, and I don't know this, is Paul is trying not to alert this attacker in any way, shape, or form, trying to keep him calm, the situation calm. I don't know that, but that's my best benefit of the doubt that I can give him in this scenario.
Well, my first question would be, was he on speakerphone? Otherwise, how is this subject hearing what the dispatcher asked, what is his name? And then he answered.
Yeah.
And he answered very readily. So it leads me to believe that he was probably on speakerphone. I don't know. But the fact that the assailant would allow him to call the police is strange as well. Like he wanted them to show up. But I will say this. Our dispatch here in Allen County, Fort Wayne, Allen County, because they are housed together, Fort Wayne and Allen County dispatchers are in the same room. They do a very good job at extracting information from people. So, in cases like this, when it's just a casual thing, because we do get a lot of that. So it's a lot of like domestic stuff that comes through is very casual. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if some people have heard some of these 911 calls from domestics where like, I want to order a pizza.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is the police. Yeah, I know. And then they go on, okay, is someone in the room with you? And they'll just start asking questions. Yeah, pepperoni with that. Or, kind of get them to ask questions so they don't give themselves away. So dispatch is really good. This kind of threw me because right away he was a little disoriented, but the dispatcher, I feel, should have picked up on that.
See, that's where I was going to kind of also go with this as well. Shouldn't the dispatcher almost been asking him like yes or no questions?
Yeah, I mean, And whether you like it or not, name dropping the name Pelosi probably would have given me another level of, okay, what's going on here? And they would have had his ping on his cell phone.
That was another question of mine that I wrote down.
Yeah, we do get that.
That's real. So
that is real.
When someone calls 911.
Yes.
Now, is it the same?
Now, we do want you to confirm an address. So if you can do that, please do that, because sometimes those pings aren't accurate.
Well, I was going to ask you, how accurate are they? And does it matter if you're on a landline or a cell phone for those pings?
Yes. So the cell phone pings, it's only as good as the cell phone provider. So some providers are within 100 feet. Some are in like 500 to 1,000 feet.
Okay.
So it really does make a difference, especially when you're talking in a neighborhood where houses are right on top of each other.
Which in this case, San Francisco, where the Pelosi's have their home, it is like that. It's like the row homes kind of.
Yeah. So if you could provide an address, please do. But if you don't, it's not the end of the world. We'll figure it out. So there was a lot to this, more than I thought was going to be. But like I said, it was very casual, but I think the casualness of it, and then once he dropped who the name was of the home, it probably would have given me an extra cause to go into more questions, deeper questions. I felt like the dispatcher was very nonchalant.
Yet the part that really bothered me when I first heard this, again, I'm like you, and I've listened to it now probably, 20, 30 times at this point. Paul says he doesn't think we have a problem, but I've got a problem. Yeah. He says that. And she responds with, okay, well, let us know if you need anything. Call us back if you need anything. I'm like, wait, what? He did just tell you he has a problem.
Yeah, there was a lot of missed cues. And I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, because it happens all the time. And obviously it's lack of training a lot. Maybe she's new. Maybe there's, just not adequate training for the job of dispatcher. I don't know what the turnover is in San Francisco, but dispatching is a very tough job, and there's a high turnover rate.
I believe it.
It's very stressful. But we're lucky that, our turnover rate has slowed here. We have a lot of experienced dispatchers still with us. So it makes a difference, man.
Do phones ring off the hook for dispatch? I mean, what's that?
Depends. Yeah. Sometimes, those screens will fill up, especially bad weather, accidents. Some are accidents with injuries, so they've got to decipher that information, get where you are, get names, things like that, so they can add that to the run for when then they appear on our computer screens in our cars, and we have adequate information. But when you're talking about someone calling in something like this, to me, it might have been dispatched here, probably as a problem unknown, possibly a burglary in progress. We're not sure. But
this one was dispatched as a wellness check, and that's why 2 officers were sent out to the scene. And then there's also body cam footage of how it all plays out once these officers get there, which is a whole
other. Now that I saw snapshots of those pictures, but a wellness check, I probably would have if it was me dispatching, I probably would have put it in as a problem unknown or a burglary in progress.
Because that kind of startled me too, calling it a wellness check. Which again, like you said, he did sound disoriented, so I get that. But he's clearly stated there's someone in his home that he doesn't know that shouldn't be. Yeah. So again, I immediately think home invasion or burglary, and so I feel like when you send these officers out on a wellness check. Not that I know you all assumed everyone's armed and like worst case scenario. I get that, but at the same time,
but sure, there's a different level.
There is
of
a different
threat.
level of of threat when it's a wellness check versus a home intruder.
Right.
And so I was actually kind of really turned off by the fact that they dispatched this as a wellness check.
Now I will say this, and to kind of give her a little grace. He did sound older, and we know he is. Sometimes we get a lot of disoriented elderly people calling in, thinking there's something or something that may come like this. So maybe they get a lot there, and it was just maybe something that she thought that this was. I don't know.
Let me ask you this though, and I guess maybe,
which in turn would be a well-being check,
right? Sure.
Like a mental health check.
Sure. But when it comes to in this particular scenario, and again, I don't know how it works, but this is why I'm asking. Let's say you are a dispatcher in an area that has, I'm going to even say like a celebrity or a high profile person. In this case, Paul Pelosi, Paul and Nancy Pelosi. Are you aware of that? I mean, certainly down in Indy, where the governor's mansion is and the address there. And if there's do you know what I mean? If you see that ping to that address, or even within like you said,
it should have been in the call comments. If it probably wasn't, we would keep that. Obviously, we have, and most of the time we know who people are here because we're not that big.
Yeah.
Right. So people know who people are. especially down at dispatch. But I would imagine if you had like the Speaker of the House living in your city.
You have the third in line to the President of the United States of America in your district. I'm like, aren't you at least kind of familiar with that address?
Yeah, or at least when you pull up the address when he gave it should have come up, this is Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi address. We have a space where we can put comments in, especially comments of, there's someone here with, autism, or someone here.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
We can put those kind of comments in that just gives us a little bit of
to know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, what's up? Like, hey, this could possibly be this. Doesn't mean it is, but it could possibly be this, or something where we also have this moniker as Codex, so someone who's fought us before or has been an armed barricade with us before. We can put those little notes in there so we know, hey, we're going to this house, and that's readily available for any officer coming up. I'd be interested to see when they dispatch the call what the call comments were, because they may not have a problem unknown code. I don't know what they use out in San Francisco, but if you do a well-being check, but then put in the call comments, because most areas, even San Francisco, have
is it the dispatcher
screens
that puts those call comments?
Yeah, the dispatcher puts, or the call taker.
Oh,
so there's two different jobs down in dispatch. There's a call taker who takes the 911 call, which would have been what she is. So she's inputting information for the dispatcher then to dispatch.
Oh, geez, isn't it interesting? Because I always refer to them all as like dispatchers. I guess I didn't realize.
No, one's a call taker, one's dispatcher, because you can't be on the phone while you're trying to listen to what the police are telling you at the time that stuff's going on. So there's two different jobs down at dispatch.
Makes sense, I guess. That's almost common sense, but I don't know why I've never.
Well, you don't know if you don't know.
Yeah,
right. You've never been down there. You don't know how the system works.
Do those call notes then? I mean, are those public? How does that work?
Sometimes there's a lot of personal information in the call comments, so sometimes they're available.
A lot of it redacted.
Yeah, but a lot of times they get redacted because there's so much personal stuff in there.
I would love to see those too. I didn't know that those existed.
Yeah, so it depends on what she wrote. Like, she could do a well-being check. Paul Pelosi's home says Nancy's not there. There's some guy claiming there's a guy inside, but seems disoriented. It could have been a lot of things on those call comments to come in.
How then, I kind of going back almost to my original question, let's say you have this home invader, and maybe it is a cool, calm, casual invasion. Didn't know those existed, but this
it seemed like
kind of seemed like that was that scenario. I mean, there is surveillance video that this attacker did break a back window on the first floor. At least it appears to be a first floor to me when I watched the surveillance video, that he broke a window, and that's how he got inside. So he clearly forced entry into this home, and you hear Paul Pelosi say, I don't know him. He says he's a friend, but I don't know him. So in this kind of scenario, you have someone who's broken into your home. I mean, and let's say you are trying to keep it cool and not alert this attacker to your panic, or maybe that you're even calling the police. What would be like a good way to communicate with a dispatcher? Call taker, I guess it would be the correct lingo.
Well, I think first when you make that initial call,
I like the pizza technique.
That's been handled several times. Or there's other when you try and speak in code, I think dispatchers are wise enough, experienced enough, because every dispatcher started out as a call taker.
Okay.
That's how you move. Unless you've lateraled here and you were a dispatcher somewhere else and they put you in dispatch right away, you've all evolved from a call taker to a dispatcher. So you've spent that time on the phone with people. So those call takers get very good at reading people over the phone. So something like this, I would be like, most of them would be like, is everything okay? And then you could just answer yes or no. Do you need police? Yes or no.
Right.
Okay. Can you give me your address?
Why did she ever say, do you want me to send police? Yeah, that would be great, actually. Sure. I don't know, if you wanted to try to remain cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of the dispatcher or the call taker being astute enough to pick up on not being able to speak freely.
Right.
And then how do they then extract information from you without giving away something?
I said when I played on the air during my show, if it was me, I'd been like, yeah, can you get here right now? Someone's in my home who shouldn't be. He broke in. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who. That would have been me. I just, if I could have, I suppose, gotten away with it. I don't know that I would have been smart enough in the moment to speak in code. I like to think I'm that smart, but in that moment, you never know. Hopefully I never have to find out.
But but was the assailant threatening him at the time you made the call? I don't. There's a lot of unknowns.
Sound like it.
But who knows? Maybe he was standing there with a hammer over him, so, letting him give enough information to get the police there, but not in a big hurry. I don't know. This is it's one of those things where you're like looking at a movie. I can see all sorts of, my mind's going all sorts of different ways.
It is very strange because, again, if then you follow up and watch the body cam footage when the officers did arrive. Because at first, I actually watched that first before I heard this phone call. And I wondered why these officers were so nonchalant and casual when they arrived. I'm like, that's how you arrive to a home invasion? But I did not know the detail at the time.
That it was a
well-being check.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think there's quite a big difference between
huge difference.
those two things.
Huge difference in how you approach.
Yeah. So that really changed my perspective then when I went back and watched the body cam footage of the call.
Yeah, but after hearing him say there's someone in my house I don't know, that to me would be like, okay, it's a burglary in progress. There's someone inside the home.
You would think.
That would have been my initial kind of, even if you did a well-being thing with, he's saying there's someone in the home. He says he doesn't know him, but the guy says they're friends. Now, is it someone that has dementia that can't remember this is his friend?
Right.
I don't know. You don't know.
There's some speculation about him being a painter. I can't confirm that or deny that. That's a rumor at this point, this attacker. So
I've heard a lot of other rumors, too.
I've heard a lot of other rumors as well. That's not what this show's all about.
No, we're just dealing in facts.
That's right. So whether this David fella is what I'm maybe thought he was an acquaintance. Oh, yeah, I have been to this house. I do know the Pelosi's.
Well, I'm sure he's probably mentally ill at some
There's
level.
There's some speculation about that as well.
Him maybe thinking they're friends. I mean, there's people that think they're boyfriends to women and
they don't even know who they are.
Girlfriends to men.
True that.
So
let me ask you this, and I'm not necessarily San Francisco because I know you don't know, but here in Fort Wayne, Allen County, when someone does place a call to dispatch and the call taker takes that phone call, what amount of time are we talking here that the dispatcher makes the decision to dispatch police and police arrive on the scene? Is there an average like, hey, I'm going to be waiting 15 minutes? Or are we talking like 3 minutes later?
Yeah, so it depends on the run. Depends on the priority of the run. So each run is assigned a priority depending on the call type. So in terms of things that like take less than a minute to get into the computer and dispatched, well, I think it's going to be like shooting, stabbing, accident with injury, kidnapping, anything that's priority one, armed robbery, things like that have victims, maybe possible injury, or there is a potential for injury given that there's a fight, things like that. Those are priority ones. Priority twos are different. They each have their own time allotment before you have to dispatch. And they do a very good job at keeping within those parameters. So we're dispatched. And what's nice about the in-car computer is that we can see that run being input at the time. We don't have to wait for the comments. If we see an accident with injury coming up at Coliseum and Crescent, I can already head that way. I don't need to wait for dispatch to dispatch me there.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So that's a plus for having that in-car computer. You can start that way automatically before you're even dispatched. Another nice thing about the in-car computer is that dispatch has us on GPS, so they can see where the nearest car is to the run and dispatch those cars. So you're getting immediate police response in a very timely manner when they know where we are and they can dispatch accordingly.
So then I'm going to go ahead and assume a wellness check, for example, around these parts around Fort Wayne and Allen County wouldn't be a priority one.
It would not be a priority one, no.
Even a 2?
I believe those are probably a priority 4.
Wow.
It depends on what we're checking for.
How many priorities are there?
There's 5.
5, okay.
Yeah. So like your VIN checks and things, those would be priority 5s.
Okay.
Things where we'll get to it if we can, but there's no promises.
What's 2? What's priority 2? I'm making you dig deep today, aren't I?
Yeah. So like a domestic with in progress would be a priority 1.
Okay.
So if there's an active physical confrontation going on between people in a relationship or whatever, that's a priority 1. A regular domestic that the perpetrator's gone, or I just need to report, that's a priority 2. So it's important, but it's not like we have to get there now.
Right. It's not life or death if we don't get there right now.
Right.
Gotcha. All right, Sophia, like usual, we're up against the clock. I cannot believe we just spent almost a half an hour talking about this one dispatch
time
call.
goes fast.
Yeah, it does go fast. Yeah. We will still talk speeding for those of you that we told we would talk about, because we've had a lot of requests to talk about that. But as we wrap this up, can you just kind of one last time maybe go through some bullet points of what we need to be telling in this case, the call taker that I've always called a dispatcher, but what we need to be telling the dispatcher in the event of, I hate to say it, a home invasion or burglary, anything like that.
Yeah. So first you want to get in line, identify what your problem is first and foremost, if you can. Don't put yourself in danger to do that. But if you can do that, get to a safe place to make that call. You can also text 911. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, you can text 911. I think it's 911.
Do you communicate via text?
Yep, you communicate via text, and they will text you back. So they do monitor that, and they can text you back.
I didn't know you could do that.
Kids can do that in a closet while they're hiding. If something's going on and they're hiding away, they can text 911 if they don't want to get on the phone and call. And those calls do go through. But get on there. Give me your name, your location, what's going on. Are there weapons involved? How many people? Descriptions if you can. All this and as much information as you can generate for us, because it's just going to make us. It's going to depend on how they code that run. So if it needs to be a priority 1, then we want it to be a priority 1, not some priority 4. Okay, so just make sure you're giving them as much detailed information as you can.
What happens if you lie? Let's say you it's a priority 3, whatever that might be, and you're calling 911, but you're like, I'm feeling threatened for my life, or you make this claim, and then police get there, and it's not actually.
Not much will happen.
Accurate.
If it's repeated behavior, though, there is a statute of abuse of 911 that we can use, and we have used that in the past for people that have repeatedly called 911 for false reporting. But nothing's going to happen if you because everyone's perception of a threat is different.
That's true.
So yours and mine would be different than someone else's. But I do want to say before we wrap up is dispatch is always hiring. Call takers are always needed. Like I said, it's a high stress environment. You have to know how to type. You have to know how to talk to people on the phone. So if you think you can do that, they are always taking applications, and you can do that through the city website. In communications, 911 dispatcher is what you're going to look for the job.
Like I said, I cannot believe we spent about 30 minutes talking about this.
And it went very quickly.
It went very quickly. It always does.
It does, yeah.
We will get to speeding. I can't even promise now next week because I know we've already got guests booked out ahead. So we'll get to speeding when we can. For now, if you've missed any previous episodes of Unholstered, you can speed on over to anywhere you download a podcast. You can find us. Just search for Unholstered. This is your town, your team, your topics. This is Unholstered.
Thanks for listening to Unholstered. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen. And remember, you can listen every Saturday morning at 10:30 on WOWO 1190 and 107.5 FM.
Podcasts by Federated Media.